the licensing required for whatever your business is at a Renaissance fair. I wanted to talk about, there's a conversation going on related to a post I did a week or so ago about the licensing required for whatever your business is at a Renaissance fair. And of course with food there are more rules, but that has to do with health and public safety. So festivals are a step up from, and we get more traffic than, say, farmers markets. But the licensing, well, I'm just not going to dance around it. So in Texas and in many states, there is a type of health permit called a cottage law permit. And there's little or no paperwork involved in it because it's designed for small producers that don't have a lot of exposure and therefore don't have a lot of risk. So in the state of Texas, a cottage law license will allow you to produce, let's say you're a baker. So you have a cottage law license and you can legally sell at farmers markets, you could sell on Facebook Marketplace, you can sell at events. But cottage law licenses are only available for people whose business gross sales are less than $50,000 in an entire year. So that's not $50,000 in sales on your whole wheat sourdough boule. That's $50,000 in sales on your entire bread business. And it's specifically designed for, small producers or people that are making jams out of the fruit they're growing in their backyard, kind of thing. But when it comes to an event, there's two places and two categories that need some CYA. So if you are an event manager, most of the Renaissance festivals in the US do their own beverages, and many of them also do a good amount of food at their event. So, you want a nice mix of products at your show, but you need to know what's really involved in the license that this vendor has told you they have. So in Texas, cottage law licenses have 0 inspections, okay? They have, and because Texas has no sales tax on groceries, there's not any check or balance for when somebody has hit that $50,000 mark, and now their permit is invalid. So if you're running an event and heaven forbid somebody gets sick on something they consumed at the event, what happens is the report goes to the health department, and then the health department looks at the list of permits for that location, and the health department then goes and scrutinizes those locations to try to track back whatever this foodborne illness was. So if you as an event manager are only allowing people in with permitted premises, whether that can be a permitted trailer or it's a permitted presence inside the park, or it's a permitted tent in the park that got an inspection of that tent, then all of those are permits of record with the health department when something went awry. But if you also have people selling jams that they made in their kitchen, or CBD chocolates that they made in their kitchen, or bread that they made in their kitchen and they're selling with cottage law, there were 0 inspections for that, and their permit is not on a list anywhere because they don't really have a permit. They're just selling under cottage law. So, and they have to sell, there's some rules around the cottage law. It only works up to $50,000 gross a year. They can only sell directly to the final user, the consumer of their product. and they there's some labeling parameters around it where they have to have their actual physical address on the label. So in theory, if somebody got sick, the label has where it was made, and that could be tracked back to the health department. But the truth at an event is people eat from a dozen different vendors. Some of them, the park themselves. They also drink a beer that they bought from the park. So you have the people with temporary permits, which need an inspection on site. I mean, in Atlanta, we got inspected every weekend we were open. In Texas, we'll get inspected once or twice in our kitchens that are here on site. But the vendors that have come in here as if their product is a craft, which, you know, bread making is a craft. I say that as a baker. I have great love of baking and bread making, but it's hard. There's some gray spots around baked goods. Okay. I called the comptroller. I own a bakery inside a theme park, and I called and said, all right, what are the parameters? Am I ready? Are these ready to eat, or are these groceries? And there's a phrase, you know, like a cookie is a cookie is a cookie. But that cake, if you give somebody plates and forks with it, that cake is now ready to eat, and you have to collect sales tax on it, and you owe sales tax for that product. There is a giant truck about to drive by here that is wetting down the road, so we have less dust this weekend. So you're gonna have to hear that. But the problem, like I said before, it's like if what I'm selling from my cottage kitchen is a grocery, who knows when I hit $50,000? It's certainly not the comptroller. So the comptroller said to me, he says, I don't want to imply that if you skip giving them a fork and a napkin, you don't owe sales tax. I want you to think this way. If it feels like you should have given them a napkin, that's a ready-to-eat product, and you owe sales tax on it. Well, I would argue that at a festival, everything's a ready-to-eat product. Somebody buys a chocolate bar that was made in somebody's home kitchen and it's 90 degrees. Do you think they're going to eat one serving of it and put it in their purse? No, well, I'm really worried about that one because it's CBD chocolate and it's like 15 servings. But anyway, these things are all ready to eat. If I buy a loaf of bread in a Renaissance fair, I'm going to eat that bread. And so even though it was sold as though it was a grocery out of a craft shop and made with a cottage law license, it's really been a ready-to-eat product. It's been eaten on the premises, and if something goes awry, the health department's going to get involved. So I am not against cottage law, but with the kind of volume that happens at Renaissance fairs, people here on a cottage law license need to know what the next step is so that they can stay legal. Sometimes that is, you've got to build a little shack that you can license. A good friend of mine was in exactly the situation making jams. She was selling at farmers markets. And what we did with her, we helped her find a food trailer, like food truck, food trailer. And then she could license that trailer, produce her jams in that, and now she was legal. Because that trailer got an inspection from the health department and it carried a permit. And another option could have been she could have rented space from somebody that was renting out time in a commercial kitchen or, you know, ghost kitchen kind of stuff. And there are a lot of food trucks that rent space from commercial kitchens because they can't do all of the production in their truck. So that's kind of a next step. So if you got into a show with a cottage law license and you're selling your bread or cakes or whatever, and oh my gosh, it's gangbusters, I've got to find more space to bake in order to keep up, do the math, because you might legally need to be getting another license. And if that's true, then you're going to have to be baking in someplace other than your home kitchen. So those are the two departments that need to know about it. And I mean, if you guys have been following me at all, you know, I talk to both sides of the desk. I've been in festival management, I consult festival management, and I've been a vendor of multiple types: food vending, service vending, crafts vending, management for other food vendors. I've run hiring fairs for festivals. I've done a lot of stuff. This time of year, I don't have any of my management consulting vehicles open. I've got the stuff that I do with vendors. I've got my Modern Merchant's Guide to Renfaires, which is the course for how to become a vendor out here, is available right now. And I've got a special till October 31st. It's going to come with the Renfaire Design Guide, Renfaire Builder's Guide to Design. It's going to be a freebie until October 31st. But we have been talking about permits a lot this past week. We just got our inspections. We turned in all of our stuff. Festival vendors tend to have a temporary food permit, and it might be a multiple events temporary permit. The thing to know about a temporary permit is that it's the same permit people get to do a street show. It's the same permit that the Kiwanis Club gets to do their pancake breakfast. And so it's not incredibly difficult. It's not like you've got to have mop sinks and you've got to have, I got in trouble about a mop sink once, but because I had mistakenly got a permit that was a permanent permit. Anyway, permanent rules are very stringent and there's a lot of extra boxes to check. Temporary permits are something that you could make happen out of a food truck, or you could make happen in a tent at a street show. So don't get terrified that you've been baking or making jams out of your home kitchen and now something dramatic has to change. Some things have to change, but it means that your business is growing. And if you ever wanted your side hustle to be more than a side hustle, you were going to have to do these steps anyway. So that's what I wanted to talk about. I've got friends in management that didn't even know, oh, I didn't think about where they were roasting this coffee that they're selling, that they're doing. They were roasting coffee on a cottage law license. Okay, that's fine. Well, they can't legally sell it to another vendor in the park with a health permit. It looks like that's the final user, but it's not. Cottage law specifically does not allow you to sell your product to another restaurant. You can only sell directly to the final consumer. So let me know if you have any questions about this. It's the kind of conversations that happen in festival offices all the time, and often with a, oh crap, I didn't know I had to know about this element about it. But everybody starts vending out here at whatever level they can. And again, some of my neighbors are people who had been doing farmers markets and decided they wanted to bring their product out here, and they just need to know what the next step is when they're doing so much volume that that cottage law license is no longer an option for them, because a cottage law license is not an option for a business that does over $50,000 in an entire year with that food product. And again, not the peach jam, $50,000 in peach jam. It's like your whole jam and jelly business. If you make more than $50,000, you cannot function on a cottage law license in Texas. And Texas is one of the least regulated states in the country. Look at what the rules are in your own state. Make sure that the website you're looking at that's telling you about cottage law is actually a state-sponsored site and not written by the lobbyists for cottage law, because there's a lot of that. They've got some great domains that make you think that you're in exactly the right place. So that's what's up.